Hello again, this is Gary Simpson from Zenith Self-Mastery with another quick video for you. Today I want to talk about the love of reading. I know there's a lot of people out there that think reading is a complete and utter waste of time. How wrong you are. In fact, I even know some people that have bragged that since they've left school, they have never read a book since they left school. I actually find that a very sad thing for them to say. They are missing out on so much. Now, there's a couple of different types of books that I want to talk to you about today, and at Zenith Self-Mastery we really encourage people to read. Not just any book, mostly motivational books, biographies, things like that. In fact, I've got a little stack of books here which I'm going to refer to. I'll just talk briefly about each one. This one here, Robert Schuller. Tough times never last, but tough people do. What a saying, hey? And in fact, at Zenith Self-Mastery, we use a lot of the wisdom. Look at this book, it's fallen to pieces. I've read it so much. We use a lot of the wisdom of these types of authors, and we take little snippets of what they say, little quotes from them, and offer that as a daily quote. So that's that one, Robert Schuller. Next one I'd like to refer to, just a very quick little story. As you can see, it's not a very thick book. An inspirational story by a guy called Peter B. Kine, The Go-Getter. And it says underneath that, a story that tells you how to be one. Highly recommended. Another book which is a good one to read if you really want to understand what people are thinking is Body Language. Alan Peace. I've actually been to a few of his seminars, and boy oh boy, he's a very funny man. And I'll give you the tip, if you do go to a seminar, don't sit anywhere near the front row. You'll get picked on. Fantastic book, but another one that I really enjoyed by an Australian author, incidentally Alan Peace is also an Australian author, Miss Phillips, You Were Wrong. This is by a guy called Peter J. Daniels. This is a fantastic account of his life and how, oh look, I've even had that one personally autographed. I went to his seminar as well. And I encourage you to go to seminars too. Peter Daniels, this is an account of his life with a school teacher, Miss Phillips, that said, you know, you'll never amount to anything. Boy, how wrong she was. Fantastic book. Have a read of that. If you don't like reading too much, might I suggest this, Rhinoceros Success by Scott Alexander. This is a really funny book. It's got all sorts of pictures and cartoons and things in it. You know, it's not a heavy read at all. Yeah, fantastic little book. This, I'll just show you something here. This is a picture of a rhinoceros in a Rolls Royce looking out at all his horns sticking out the window there, and all the cows out in the pasture, and the caption to it says, cows in the country provide a scenic view on our Sunday drives in the Rolls Royce. It's really funny. It's a funny little book, but it's full of excellent wisdom. And we use some of Scott Alexander's quotes in our Zenith Self-Mastery course. Og Mandino's written dozens and dozens of books. This one's The Greatest Miracle in the World. He's written some fantastic stuff. Great author. This one here, The Richest Man in Babylon. If you want to know how to control money so that you're controlling it and it's not controlling you, George Clason, that's the book to read, The Richest Man in Babylon. Now I've got a few more here. This next one is by Maxwell Maltz. This has got the craziest title of all time. And if you didn't know what was inside it, you'd look at that and think, oh, why would I want to read something like that? Psycho-Cybernetics. This is one of the greatest books I've ever read. This would probably be in my top 5 of motivational and inspirational books. I won't say too much more about it other than this guy was a plastic surgeon, and what he found was that after he'd operated on the body and corrected whatever the problem was that the person had, that quite often they would still think that they had that problem. So, you know, he's delved into mind research and all sorts of things. Incidentally, I don't normally do this, but in some of these books I've gone through and you can see I've marked, don't know whether you can see it or not, but you know, I've marked some of the relevant sections that I really have enjoyed, so I can go back and just very quickly just read those bits that I've highlighted there. Another fantastic book, This guy, Viktor Frankl, was actually a survivor of a Nazi war camp. If you think you've got your life hard, boy, you really need to read this book. Look, I'll honestly say there are a few times when I was reading this book that I was pretty much reduced to tears. I couldn't believe the cruelty that was enacted upon these people. But pretty heavy reading, but fantastic source of information. Right, next one, Think and Grow Rich. You've probably heard of that before. Napoleon Hill. A lot of people say that this book was the thing that started them off on their way to their journey to success. Another fantastic book. I strongly encourage you to read that. This also, that was in my top 5 as well. This is another one in my top 5. In fact, it's so much in my top 5, I've actually got 2 copies. I don't know why I've got 2 copies. I probably saw it one day. I thought, oh yeah, I'll have another one of those. Shad Helmstetter. What to say when you talk to yourself. Basically what he's saying is you're talking to yourself all the time. And that little voice inside your head is dictating what you're going to do. Is it positive? Is it negative? Tremendous book. I've read this book so many times now. It's probably why I've got a second copy, because the first one's wearing out. But yeah, look, do yourself a favour. Read that book. Those books. Next one I have to share with you, Bob Proctor. Some people don't really like Bob Proctor too much. I do. I've been to many of his seminars. Always get a lot out of them. This particular book, when Bob was a lot younger, he doesn't look like that anymore, same as me. But this one's You Were Born Rich. Once again, it's not hard going. The reading of it, it's fairly large font. A lot of bolding and stuff like that, capitalisation. Fantastic book. I really encourage you to read that. That's again in my top half-dozen books. The last one, and this one is too, I don't know whether I've gone over my limit of 5 or 6 now, but Personality Plus. What a wonderful, wonderful book this is, by Florence Latower. If you want to know what makes yourself tick, get that book. And inside there's an exercise, and I can't probably find it very quickly. Oh, there it is. There's exercises to talk about your strengths and your weaknesses. And if you want to understand why you do the things that you do, get that book and read it. Now, having said that, they're all, motivational, inspirational books. And they're not the only sort of books that I read. I also read for enjoyment. I mean, I enjoyed reading those as well. But I also read novelists. And if you want to get yourself into the mode of reading, read a good story. There is nobody that I could recommend that would be better than Nelson DeMille. He is a very, very talented writer, in my opinion, head and shoulders above anyone else out there at the moment. Plum Island, as you can see, there's an $8 sticker there. I saw this and I thought, oh, I'm going to buy that. Plum Island is one of the best stories that you'll ever read. It's really, really funny. He's got a character called John Corey, and boy, this guy, he's a laugh a minute. Fantastic book. If you're not into reading, then I would suggest go out, get that, and start to coerce yourself into reading other material. There's some other authors that I also enjoy very much. What I tend to do is I read a motivational book and then I'll read a storybook. Michael Connolly, he writes detective mysteries with his character Harry Bosch. The Poet, that wasn't a Harry Bosch story, but great story, really talented writer. He's my number 2 novelist. And the last one that I've chosen here is Lee Child. Lee Child is also a very talented writer. I don't think that's his real name actually, but anyway. Yeah, this one's The Affair. I quite enjoy that. What I actually do too is after I've finished these books, I just initial it at the back there, and I put the date. I know this is a bit crazy, but I put the date that I read it, and I'll give it a score out of 10. This one here I've scored 7.5 out of 10. Now, a lot of these books I've read quite a few times because I enjoyed them so much. In fact, I'll just reach over and grab Plum Island again, because I know that I've read this quite a few times. If I flip to the back, oh, actually, it says I've read it twice, but I'm sure I've read it more times than that. The first time I read it was 20th of January 2008. I scored it 9 out of 10. and then I read it again on the 2nd of June 2013. I gave it a 9 out of 10 then as well. So great book. Also, if you're not much of a reader, start off with something a bit humorous. Chuck Norris joke book. You know, if I ever find myself a bit depressed, I just pick up something like this and I start reading, a few little jokes like Chuck Norris makes his internal organs pay rent. Well, some people might not think that's funny. I actually think it is. But little things like that. Get yourself into the reading mode. Don't feel as though you have to read newspapers and stuff like that, because that's all negative. But anyway, look, I've presented a fair selection of reading material there. Go back through this video again and just pick out some that might appeal to you. We do a lot of reviews at Zenith Self Mastery, so we've got a lot of reviews on our site, in our membership area. As I said, a lot of the really intelligent quotes, we pull them from books, we take them from all over the place, and we offer a quote a day at our website. So anyway, that's all I want to say for this quick video. This has been Gary Simpson from Zenith Self Mastery.